Hi, my name is Laura Wendt, and I'm doing a reflection for January 3rd, 2021, Sunday. That's Nala. She's helping me with this today. So I'm entitling my reflection, I Came, I Saw, I Shared, because today is the day that the Magi came. There was an epiphany. Today is called Epiphany because something was revealed to them. They came, they saw, they shared. I'm doing a reflection on the first reading and the gospel reading. So the first reading is from Isaiah 60, and the gospel reading is from Matthew chapter 2. And in both of these readings, what struck me was that sense of joy. So in the first reading, it says that, let me see here, your heart shall throb and overflow. And in the second reading, it says that they were overjoyed at seeing the star, and they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And I was thinking about, when have I felt that sense of overflow joy, of my heart being enlarged? And so I want to share a story with you that took place last year. I went to Steubenville, Orlando, which is where students from Franciscan University come and put on a retreat for high school students. I'd taken a group of teens over with me, and on Saturday night, we participated in adoration. And this adoration included a procession of the Eucharist in the monstrance. Before the priest came down off the altar, he mentioned to us that sometimes things happen during this procession that aren't part of our usual experience. Didn't think anything of it, maybe thought it was a little strange, but as soon as he came off the altar, we did start feeling that spirit move, and it took many different forms. So some kids were laughing, some were crying, some were singing. It was an amazing thing. Me personally, I was kneeling on my knees for probably an hour, and I started thinking, oh my gosh, my poor knees need a break. I'm too old to be kneeling here for an hour. But then suddenly the procession had moved, and it was crossing my path, probably 10, 15 rows up in front of me, and I started to feel something. My heart started racing. I started feeling this sensation of like a wave, raising me up. Of course, I'm diabetic, so my first thought was, is my blood sugar off? Like, my brain couldn't comprehend what was going on with my body. But it wasn't. My blood sugar was fine. And as the Eucharist started moving down towards us, that sensation just grew and grew, this sense of my heart being enlarged and that wave rising up under me. When he got to our aisle and started to come closer to us, I suddenly found myself face down on the floor, just crying, and I couldn't help crying. And then when he stopped right in front of me, but all I could see were his feet. And when I looked up, all I could see was the Eucharist. I didn't even really notice the priest, and that sensation of that wave continued, and then suddenly it broke, and there was this feeling of peace and joy and love, and all of those things that you hear people say they have in the presence of Christ. What was really interesting and kind of funny about the situation, I was there with 12 other teenagers, and we had all planned on going to the pool after the Eucharist, after the adoration, and I suddenly, after another hour on my knees, I got up and I was like, oh, I have got to share this with the kids. Like, that was an amazing feeling. And when I stood up, the other kids came running to me, and they're like, Miss Laura, you won't believe what I felt. And they each had a different experience of Christ at that moment. And so we ended up going and finding a place in the corner of the hotel and sharing each of our experiences. I think that's what the Magi felt, right? I think they felt that sense of awe and wonder and peace and joy, and that they probably ran home to tell their friends and their family. They probably didn't even wait for that. They probably shared it right there in that little town of Bethlehem. I think we're called to be the Magi as well. How do we experience Christ? How do we go back and share that sense of joy and peace? Just because Christmas Day is over doesn't mean Christmas is over. I think our calling is to continue sharing. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year as you continue to share the message and the joy and the love of Christ.